So today it's all about how we can get fantasy football into the math classroom. I'm going to walk you through what I do with my students. I'm going to show you what I create for them and how we use it each week. And then the most importantly behind the whole thing here is this is something where you do not need to create yourself. You can just simply take what I use, you take that Excel document, and it is all ready to go for you. So before we get into the hows and what do we do with it, let's look at a few different things that why am I getting into this? So the first thing is data analysis. And that's how we're looking at everything. It's reading and interpreting numbers to make a decision. We are making predictions here. A lot of these fantasy football analytics all have these math backgrounds, and a lot of them compare it to picking stocks. So it's a great way of kind of interpreting and then transferring it into the stock market, into some sort of business. Well, that's great. The student buy-in as well. I do get a lot of students that are very excited about this because it's something that they do outside the classroom. And I'll get students then suddenly they'll do their math where they typically don't. But because they bought it on the fantasy football, I've hooked them. They're ready to go. Parents, very positive response from the parents. The number of parents are involved in fantasy football, and now they have discussions with their kids, who to start, who to sit, and the kids go through, they show them the numbers, the analytics, and so it's been real positive from the parent side. And then lastly, everything is through Excel. So it's a good application where a lot of students don't ever use Excel. Yet if we kind of go into the professional world, Excel is open all the time with these companies. So again, getting into an introduction to it is a nice thing as well. So how do I create this document? Well, the first thing I do is I use DraftKings. So in DraftKings, there's a fantasy football game that's called Tiers. Tiers. And what they do is they give you a group of players where you select one particular name, you go into the next group, select one person, and then we total everything up at the end. So down at the bottom, I simply cut and paste what they've got on the screen and copy them into the Excel document and create the different pages. So we've got it together a total of 8 different selections that the students are going to have to make. At the very end here, I have a spot where the students update as they're making their choices, where it says your selections. And I just have them do something very simple, and I put an X next to it. So if they're choosing Kyler Murray, put an X there. If they want Christian McCaffrey, somehow mark it. Now, how do they make their choices? Where's the math? Where's the data analysis coming from? Well, all right, so here we go. So the big thing here that I sell to the kids is you need to know nothing about football. It has nothing to do with understanding plays, understanding names. It's simply looking up data. So the first sheet that I have them use is the rankings. So because we're talking about QBs, and again, you can see them all labeled here, QBs, I'm going to go to my QB sheet, and I've got a graph that's here, a chart. Now, I pulled this from a particular website. It is BorisChen.co. So, Fantasy Football Tiers by Boris Chen. And he updates this information. So you can see here, it's Wednesday, September 14th. Today is the 15th. So we've got updated information. And what I have the students do is go through and highlight the names. So we go, okay, Joe Burrow. Let me go ahead, let me go back to where the quarterbacks are, and then I have them grab a highlighter, and I actually go ahead and print it off for them because I find that if they use a hard copy at the beginning, it's much easier. Down the road, when they understand the technique, the procedure, this is something they don't need to have, and they can just use more of the visual. But I have them go ahead and circle the names that are on there so visually they can see where they're ranked. You see, this data is coming from the top fantasy football experts and how they're ranking the players. So what we want to end up noticing here is top name, Josh Allen, number 1 overall. But what we want to notice are these lines that are next to the dots. So we're going to go a little further down the road here where Tom Brady is at. So the dot is the average. And you can think of the lines kind of like an old school box plot. So to the far left is the highest ranking someone gave them. The far right is the lowest ranking someone gave them. So if we see a very small line like Josh Allen, I mean, we can't even see the line. That tells me, listen, there's agreement. Josh Allen, he's up there. Whereas if we look someone like Tom Brady, all right, and we kind of go further down the road, Matthew Stafford, we start to see the longer lines, which means some people view it higher, some people view it lower. So there's a little bit more disagreement among those particular players that we're looking at. So again, have them circle it on their paper, have them highlight it. But now we want to dig deeper into the numbers. So the other site that I use here is I'm going to go down to quarterback versus defense. And up pops the screen and the kids right away, oh! But we talk about it like, listen, let me walk you through it here. So these are our matchups. Now, because it's early in the season, we don't have a lot of data points. And a lack of data is going to make it difficult when we're making decisions, just like anything in life. So what I have the students do is go back and look at the first player. And we can see we've got a QB, Joe Burrow here. And because the CIN is darkened in, bolded, that is the team that he plays for. So again, don't need to know that it's Cincinnati. Don't need to know that his first name is Joe. All right. We just simply head on over to our QB versus defense. We go down to find CIN, and we see that they are playing at Dallas, and I see a negative 31.9%. What this means is that last week, because we've only had one data point, eventually this will get updated so we get an average of what's going on. Last week, the quarterback didn't do very well fantasy points-wise. The game in Dallas, it was against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They only scored 19 points, kicked a lot of field goals. So Tom Brady didn't score a lot of fantasy points. So they're saying the defense held up pretty good against the quarterback there. So we can go on to back to the next player, all right? And then, what I do have is I have them write down those numbers on their sheet of paper where they circled that name. So they see where they're ranked and they can see, wait a second, based on the past data, this might not be the best matchup because the defense last week did a good job of holding the quarterback down. All right, next one here, we're looking at L. Jackson. We see it's MIA at, okay, BAL is darkened in. So again, Baltimore, we don't need to know that. I'm going back to the QB versus the defense. I'm finding BAL, and I see, okay, negative 31.2. So they're playing against Miami, and last week the quarterback did not do well against the Miami defense. It was the New England Patriots. It was Mac Jones. Hey, it did not look well. Again, lower rating. 0 is considered average. So again, the reading, interpreting data. 0 means middle of the road. A negative, worse. And then, of course, your positives, better. And then they even go as far as, hey, if it's red, it's considered a full standard deviation. If it's green, it's a full positive. Again, don't need to get that deep into the students there. Hey, red typically means stop, no good. All right, green normally means go. Hey, this is something we want to look at. Let's go ahead and let's look at a few more down here. We got the Denver quarterback and the Arizona quarterback there. So I'll slide on back over and let's find it there. So Denver quarterback, DEN, okay, 7%, a little bit above the average that's there. And then we're going to look at the last one. Let's get back to it. Tier 1 and Arizona, of course, there. All right, so we look at Arizona and we can see, oh, here we go, 22.3. So again, if I take the rankings as in the visual of what the quarterback ranks at, and I've got their defense that they're going up against, I can use that to make a decision. I tell the kids, like, listen, this is where you get to interpret. If you want to go find more data out there, that's fine. If you want to just take those two pieces, that's fine. You just want to use the rankings and the charts, you just want to use the percentages, it's good. We just want reading and interpreting because it gives us things to talk about. As we get further into the season, I start adding extra information for them to research. And then it's fun to watch because the students kind of like, well, I'm choosing so-and-so. Well, no, you should choose this. No, look what this, no, but look what they did over here. We get the conversation that's going. So that's how I get fantasy football into my classroom. The students simply go through the data to make the selections. Again, as long as we're just looking and understanding what the number's at, that's what we're looking for. In the your selections, I have them mark an X. I'll go ahead and create a sheet of paper with this, a paper version, because we can't trust those students to take that home over the weekend, all right? And they put their X's in, and then they turn it in on Friday before they leave, or they email it to me before that Sunday noon kickoff that's there, whichever one that they do. And then we use Excel to total everything up. We'll get into that video next once we get through this week so I can show you how I enter in the points. And again, what I'll go back to from the beginning, I'm doing this with my classroom already. I can email you this document and you're all up and running and you don't have to worry about anything. You don't need to print the papers off. You can if you like. And again, you can use this with your high school students. You could probably even find some 5th grade classrooms, 4th grade classrooms. I'll be honest, I don't know, but I do know this works great with my 6th graders, and it works wonderful at the elementary school. All right, we'll talk to you later.